Good morning, YouTube. This is before when line marking paint. Dead trees, you see. Leave that up there so that it provides a bit of a backdrop for a catapulting target. That means cut off. That means cut off the dead branches. Anything that's alive gets left. Cut off. Dead branches. Dead branches. Cut off. Cut off. Cut off. Cut off. Cut off. This one was a little bit harder to decide, but I'm sorry. With that level of death and a hot, dry summer coming on, this bottom end is not going to come good. It's tried hard, it's done its very best to regenerate, but at the moment, what that represents is standing air-dried firewood. Like all the other ones with a cut mark. And the saddest thing to find of all, now I know where the choughs are building their nest. See the mud lump under the dead, dry, bloody leaves on one of the few big trees that was still surviving? So I did, in my mind's eye, have that tree marked out to be cut down, but seeing as the choughs have had to go at building a nest up there, I'm not entirely certain that they're going to continue with their project. I'm hoping they found another spot somewhere else where the tree looks less likely to die. So that's a bit of a bummer. But anyway, it goes on. Oh, look, there's another one I need to write graffiti on. Lots of dead branches up there. So this can become a dead branch tree. Yes, I think I've got them all. Oh, there's one. For a team of two people to come up here and fix this bloody problem for me, it's only going to be $380 an hour. So it should be an interesting morning, catch in hand. There are times when having a daughter who's a traffic control team leader is pretty bloody useful in terms of the sort of things they bring home because they had an extra can too many. Sadly, while I've got them here, all these mature, time expired, starting to die wattle trees, they're going to go as well. And in the fullness of the time, these melaleucas are going to make way for a display of solar panels, and there's going to be a little garden shed down there about the same size as the one I live in. And I think I'm going to actually finally and eventually, what do you think, upload this bloody 300 watt windmill to a post on the back of the Tower of Power rather than blocking my doorway to remind me to get on and do the bloody job at some time soon. What are you going to think about all the trees falling down? Will you put up with it? Will you put up with it? You really want to be fed, don't you? Yes. Oh, come on, don't be coy.
Well, more than 3 times the number of deaths due to medical misdiagnosis actions than from the road toll. That's a pretty startling figure. We'll talk to the
Okay.
Why.
And the other thing you might notice is the absence of a power line, because the machine that's coming in here is pretty big. And here's a funny looking thing. They tell you not to use power cords outside. You're supposed to keep these things in under a roof or something because they're no good for the ultraviolet. Well, this is one that's been outside in use. I think it did about 3 years, 1985 to 88. And then it's been up here since about 2000. So it's done 25 years outside an extension cord used as a power line. You get a good view of how much of the 3-core flex has been exposed by sunlight eroding on it, and it still works. It was working up to this morning. This unit was going over to the shed. What's going to happen is this one's slightly too short to actually serve the purpose for the shed. So this one's now going to go to the house after the job done. And at some point, after I get finished with moving all of the dead wood that's going to be lying on the ground after this morning's effort, at some point, then this fancy new power lead is going to take power to the shed. So, shed cord, hut cord, retired cord. And all there is to do now is wait for the man with one of them to show up. 12.5 metres out to the side and 20.8 metres up, 68 feet. I think getting a bloke with one of them for 380 bucks an hour to run around and get rid of all the dead dry wood in the canopy around my hut, I think that's pretty bloody good price, eh? It'll do a good thing for the little girl's tent too, won't it? Eh? Yes, you can't eat a camera. Never quite figured that out on a permanent basis, have you? Not much more to do but drink coffee and wait and wonder what the bloody hell happened to my weather station. Which, it comes to my attention, is in little tiny bloody pieces all over the ground. Yeah, it's dead. It's never going back up there. Okay, that's all right. Okay, the rain gauge itself is still a happening thing. The cover for the rain gauge is there. So that's going to work. This rain gauge, it's copped the hell of a pizzling too. Drop bears. That's what that is, drop bears. There's a lot of people say that drop bears are completely mythological, and they're almost right. But what's happened, in my opinion, is a sugar glider has taken off from up there, or perhaps, more likely, the sugar glider has taken off from up there. Maybe, perhaps, about there would be about the right spot, although that would work too. That gives you a fairly steep glide angle, and then you go kerbang, kerblamo, as Blanco Lirio would say, and you land on that. Maybe your boyfriend comes in and he takes out the weather station, but something on a sort of northeast southwest axis has come in there on a fairly interesting line of approach, and it has disassembled 2 rain gauges and smashed the shit out of the weather station. Didn't actually do any damage to these, as I was saying, didn't actually do any damage to these. Butterfingers from the lack of sensation from the chemotherapy forgive me thus. So yeah, the rain gauges are okay, all 3 of them. Weather station has taken its second hit from a drop bear, and the reason I say sugar gliders are drop bears is because when they land on some tourist's head while the tourist is looking at the campfire, sitting in their chair, And they're sort of sitting here, and out of left field comes a sugar glider, mistaking them for a branch or a bush or a rock, plop on the head, and they get a claw with tiny little, a paw with tiny little claws here, and another one here, and at the other corners, and they think they're being grabbed by a giant bear, or they think a koala's landed on their head. And of course, when the sugar glider realises they've landed on somebody's head, the sugar glider's really scared. So they immediately reposition themselves so it feels like your head's getting manhandled by little tiny dart points, tip points. And then it kicks off, lifts its back legs up underneath its front legs and kicks off on the back corner of your head. And you think that you've been beaten and attacked by a koala. It's not. It's a sugar glider. And they're only sort of the palm of your hand is just right for sitting on top of a human and frightening shit out of them. And, as it turns out, nearly perfect for destroying warbles on a lot's weather gauge. That's funny. It's bordering on hilarious. And while I think of it, this is going to have to be moved out of the way of the man with the machine, and this too, because according to the plan, it is foretold within the prophecy that he's going to come up here and gain entrance to back behind the hut by going through here. At least that's what his father did in 2019. One mild worry is that horizon out there. And rain is kind of on the forecast today, not a lot of it, not a really high chance, but it sort of looks kind of inexorable all the way out there. And it was blue skies here at sunrise. So hopefully I haven't just gone and graffitied the trees for nothing. I'm hoping it's all going to work out. There we go. That was before. And now, coffee time. Arr. Meet with your approval, bowerbird? Does the expression cock of the walk mean anything to you? There's the, see they've got mud on their wings where they've been playing with nest building. I'm really sorry they picked a dying tree to put their nest in. Having their old tree die during the last drought was one of the possible reasons for why they left the last time. Anyway, this video is getting too long for a beginning video, so such is life. Ciao.